So, before we talk about what we did this year, I think we need to take it back a bit and talk about where this all started. Crash the Super Bowl actually started for the brand in 2006. And this was a really interesting time because YouTube had just launched. Facebook was still primarily just available to college students. And there was no such thing as Instagram, TikTok. I was focused on my MySpace top 8. I don't know about y'all. And the brand Doritos was in a bit of a challenging time. We hadn't been on Super Bowl for over 5 years. We were considering bringing it back to the big game. And one of our agency partners came to us with a really interesting idea and question for us. They asked, what if, instead of partnering with one of our traditional agency partners for a Super Bowl ad, we put the power in our fans' hands, especially with the rise of a platform like YouTube, which was starting to democratize creating content, and allowed them the opportunity to create our Super Bowl ad for the chance to win $1 million and see it aired on the big game. This was, at the time, a really fresh, different, new idea. And for a brand like Doritos in 2006, we had nothing to lose. And so that's how Crash the Super Bowl was born. And we went on to have a wildly successful 10-year run where some of our most iconic, memorable, loved ads, both in the industry and by consumers, came from. But as is typical in marketing, after you do something for a long time, we had to pivot. We had to switch gears. And so after doing Crash the Super Bowl for 10 years, our last one of the contest ended in 2016, and we shifted our Super Bowl strategy to focus on new product innovations and launching them with the help of celebrities with mass appeal and reach on the big game, which was equally successful. You look back more recently at our Super Bowl spots from 2023, where we launched Doritos Barbecue with Jack Harlow and Elton John, or even last year in launching Dinamita with Jenna Ortega. Both of these campaign strategies have been incredibly successful and have helped Doritos accelerate and grow into one of PepsiCo's most loved billion-dollar brands, a category leader within the snacking industry. And we like to say that we're one of the most anticipated brands to watch on the big game, and I hope you guys do too. You can tell me over drinks. Anyways, so around this time last year, I actually had just gotten back from maternity leave, and my first big project was to think through, what should we do in 2025 for Doritos and Super Bowl? Should we stick to this formula that's been working for us in terms of leveraging it to launch new products in a way that we had measurable success in both driving the brand and business? Or was there an opportunity to think about something differently? And one of the first things I realized was 2025 was actually a big year for Doritos and Super Bowl because it would mark our 25th Super Bowl appearance. And so because of that, because there was an interest internally to maybe take a different approach, a group of us got together and thought through, what if we brought back something that consumers knew and loved us for and relaunched Crash the Super Bowl for today's generation of creators, where there are platforms like TikTok where people aspire to be influencers, they aspire to be content creators. And so we thought through how to do this in a way that would resonate today, but also harken back to the nostalgia that people love and remember us for, and came up with a bold challenge to both fans, makers, and even our critics to relaunch this iconic campaign. So we can take a look at this spot.
Create a better Super Bowl ad and you could win $1 million.
Yes. And so huge shout out to our creative partners at Goodby for helping us with this relaunch and this spot specifically. We could have just said, Doritos is back and we're relaunching Crash the Super Bowl, but instead we wanted to start with a really universal human insight focus on everybody's a Super Bowl ad critic on game day. People have criticized our ads, and so what if we turned the tables and issued a bold challenge to our fans to do better? And so that's what we did. That's what we did. And we really had two audiences that we were focused on. First, we wanted to drive mass reach, drive top of mind awareness with Gen Pop, with our fans and consumers. But we also needed to reach quality makers who could produce content that we'd feel proud about airing on game day. And so we ran these 15s across linear and streaming, but we also invested in out of home in places like New York and LA to drive disruption, digital out of home in film schools, ad schools, colleges, and universities to reach the next generation of creators. Our organic social content was more focused on the how to's and why we wanted our fans to do this for us. And from an influencer perspective, rather than just focus on influencers that had the highest reach, we targeted influencers that had reach, but also were engaging for the specific folks that we were trying to get to make quality content, which were people like Adrian, who has close to 1 million followers on Instagram and TikTok, but his content is all focused on filmmaking and photography and high production quality. And so having this mass, I think this is going to happen to me a bit because there's a few videos in this. Having this mass approach, but also this targeted creator approach worked really well for us because we received thousands of submissions. Thousands of our fans and makers answered our call to produce our spots. We got, content from grandmas producing content in their kitchens of their grandkids. We got content from people filming in their local grocery stores, really catchy and engaging jingles. And we got some amazing high production quality content from up and coming production companies, up and coming filmmakers, and more. And so this really started to fuel our momentum for Super Bowl back in 2024, before anyone was even thinking about the playoffs, much less the big game. And what became really hard for us was narrowing down the thousands to just 3 that we would give America the choice to vote on in order to decide what ultimately became our Doritos spot on game day. There was a lot of internal debate that happened into making those selections, and we can talk more about that later this week. But in the end, we chose Abduction, which was created by Nate and Dylan, who are up-and-coming filmmakers, young guys in LA. Barbershop, which was created by 2 best friends who were still in college. Actually, they're finishing their senior year this year. And Charades, which was produced by Mark Blitch, who's a local dad and filmmaker not far from our office headquarters in Dallas, Texas. And so the next challenge became, how do we make sure that people are aware that there's these 3 ads by Doritos and that we're giving you, America, the opportunity to choose which one becomes our ad. And so to reach that audience, we did a couple of things. First, we partnered with some Super Bowl experts who also happen to be huge Doritos fans, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, to drive awareness to get people to participate in the final voting aspect. And we ran this spot in the AFC and NFC championships, which thankfully worked out because they were playing in one of those games. And not only did we air the spot, we also had a double box, which allowed us to really disrupt and get people's attention to drive them to where we needed them to go vote at DoritosCrash.com. So we can run this spot. Okay.
This year, Doritos asked fans to make its Super Bowl ad, so we asked Super Bowl experts to judge how they did.
Let's watch.
That's true love.
Okay, what do we think about the commercials?
Personally, I like the one with the chip.
Insightful.
I think they all had chips.
Did you find any of these ads cheesy?
Very cheesy.
Very cheesy.
Very cheesy.
I kind of like that Patrick wasn't in any of the commercials.
Okay, like that Patrick wasn't in any. That's rare, yeah.
And so earlier, some of the panelists were talking about how important it is to have the right content to match the media that we're running. And I think this is a great example of that in terms of partnering with the most popular NFL team in a time where they were playing in an actual game to drive awareness and a call to action for what we were doing in the lead up to Super Bowl. In addition to running the spot on linear, we also partnered with podcasts like Barstool to drive awareness and the call to action, influencers, and also had separate content running on social. But outside of what we produced as Doritos, what was really amazing about this campaign, especially in this phase, was how empowered and inspired our fans were to drive excitement for the game and to drive votes for who they wanted to see win the contest. It started with Patrick Mahomes and his teammates and how they amplified their spot and their participation on their social channels. It continued on our organic social channels as Doritos, but really seeing these creators like Mark, like Nate and Dylan, like the two students from USC, how they were able to galvanize their friends, their families, even other celebrities and influencers like Mike Tyson posted organically about barbershop to his 34 million followers. Nate and Dylan tagged a lot of different influencers and creators to galvanize them to get behind them. And so this really ignited more momentum for us, but also for the creators and the type of boldness that we want to embody leading up to the game. And so ultimately, America chose Abduction as the winning spot, and that's what aired as the Doritos TV commercial on game day. And creatively, it was amazing. It made 28 best of lists. It was number 11 on Ad Meter. It was number 1 on Adweek's Ultimate Ad Ranker. But beyond that, what was really amazing about this were the creators behind it and the fact that we were able to not just run a 30-second spot on game day, but truly surround that across all channels, both online and offline, with content that resonated with the audience for where they were. And so we believe that this has really ignited a new era of Doritos boldness that we're really excited to continue forward, both balance of year and even into next year. So I'll run the winning spot.
Aliens. Doritos.
Doritos.
Yeah.
It's so nice when I hear other people laugh at the ads, at the parts where we think they're supposed to laugh. So thank you. So in closing, we brought back Crash the Super Bowl, and it was a different era than when Crash was first started or when it ended in 2016 in a lot of different ways in terms of how the creator landscape has grown, in terms of the tools and resources that are available to makers and creators at the touch of their fingertips. And in a lot of ways for the brand, just given the scale and expectations of a brand like Doritos. But we were able to make this successful because we kept a few things in mind. First and foremost, we trusted our fans, which was scary. It was really scary, especially in the early days where submissions were just starting to roll in, to trust them to unleash, their version of what they thought Doritos was, their creativity and love of the brand on behalf of us on advertising's biggest stage. But it worked really well for us. Second, having clear KPIs. A lot of time for Super Bowl, there's lots of different things that you're going to be tasked with doing. Winning ad meter, driving sales, driving awareness. For us, we were really choiceful in prioritizing our KPIs. And a big different for us was tying those KPIs to actions that we wanted people to take. We knew that we wanted people to watch these ads. We knew that we wanted them to vote on them. We knew that we wanted them to share them. And so with that in mind, we were able to galvanize our entire internal and external teams towards one clear path forward in terms of what we were truly audience obsessed. We really focused on where the viewership was, both for those mass moments where we would reach people with highly effective content like the AFC and NFC championships and obviously Super Bowl itself. But for other platforms where we know just as many views are happening, if not more, like on social and digital, we also made sure that we had the right content there, which primarily was focused on UGC and influencer. And actually, our creator-focused content generated more views than Super Bowl itself. And so I think just focusing on where the viewership is and making sure that the content that's delivered isn't just a cut down that from TV to digital helped us a lot as well. And so we're really excited about what we've learned from doing this again, the energy it's put back into the brand and in terms of putting creators back at the forefront of what we do. And we're excited to see where it goes in terms of the balance of year. So thank you.
Nope. We're not done with you yet, Marlo. We got questions. Thank you so much. Doritos, fun fact, is the only chip that my husband will eat. It's caused a lot of pain when I brought home the wrong actual flavor of Dorito in my family. Questions over here.
Hi, I'm Sarah Leinberger with General Mills. Can you see me? I'm over here. Hi.
Oh,
I know,
yes.
sorry.
Okay.
Can you speak in terms of internal politics? How did you navigate and create alignment with the concept?
Ooh, that's a really great question. I'll give you this answer and we can talk about it offline too. No, I mean, I think the first thing that helped the most was making sure everyone was aligned early in the briefing process. We aligned on what our KPIs were and what we were trying to accomplish with bringing Crash back this time last year. And so that helped everyone, especially as leadership changes or people change their minds, to bring people back to what we had originally aligned to and ultimately like what we were trying to do collectively. I think number one. Number two is having the right balance of quantitative insight that helped us validate what we were doing, and especially in the ad selection process, but also being able to talk creatively about what we thought made the most sense from our marketing gut. And so I think creating time to have those discussions, have those debates also helped us avoid swirl, because there were times where we were able to just get the folks that needed to be in the room together to have those conversations so that we didn't have to talk about it, closer to when we needed to have things finalized.
Marlo, another question over here.
I have a lot of questions, but I'm going to pick one and ask the rest later. Who are you? Oh, yeah, I'm Alexis. Hi, I'm Alexis Gossard from Bear. And my big question is, how do you balance like the time and the energy and the resources that go against this tentpole moment where you really extended the length of the tentpole moment to be, a bunch of months? How do you balance that with also your evergreen, always on media plans and content creation?
I love that question. I think what's so exciting about Crash, it's kind of becoming our evergreen content creation and platform for Doritos. When we briefed this, we wanted it to ignite a new era of Doritos boldness that would extend not just for Super Bowl, but truly throughout the remainder of the year and even beyond. And I think first and foremost, being able to extend the Super Bowl period for us from what's typically like an 8 to 12 week media period to 6 months was amazing. And now being able to have all of this content that was created by people that are passionate about the brand, that we can now think through, how might we leverage some from a personalization at scale perspective? Or are there other tentpole moments where an ad that maybe wasn't the winning ad, but could be more relevant for some of these other tentpole linear moments we have throughout the year makes sense? And so I think it's really just helped us. It's helped us unlock an always on strategy that just happened to start with Super Bowl.
One more question.
Hi, Nolan Johnson with Grocery TV. I actually wanted to dig in a little bit on that last part that you just mentioned. My question was going to be like, how are you planning on continuing the conversation now that you've captured such a zeitgeist moment and so much of a new audience? Personally, I remember falling in love with like the Doritos commercials when I was growing up and seeing them on TV and the Super Bowl and everything, but would love to hear how you're thinking about that as the rest of the year goes. Like, are you going to be continuing to partner with these same creators? How are you continuing kind of this momentum that you're having right now?
Yeah, for sure. So we are planning to continue to partner with these creators in terms of the folks that made the finalists and obviously the winning spot, and they'll be part of our media plan and social plan for the remainder of the year. Outside of that, like I mentioned, we're trying to figure out now, how do we leverage this breadth of content so that we're leveraging it to our advantage to reach the right audience with the right message at the right time. And so I think now our focus is really on figuring that out in terms of our go forward media plan and strategy for the remainder of the year.
Marlo, thank you so much for bringing us in.